Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. According to statistics, only 11.2% of women occupy positions in both chambers of the National Assembly, with the Senate having only 7 female senators and 11 females in the House of Representatives. This is aside the handful of female deputy governors in states like Lagos, Kaduna, Ogun, Rivers, and Enugu. We also had most recently that Adamawa State Governor has also picked a female running mate ahead of 2023 election, with the most relating it to the emergence of a female governorship candidate in APC in the state. For data uploaded by Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, more women completed participation and completed the continuous voter registration exercise, which ended last weekend. With a spike in women registration and a few aspirants picking female running mates, as well as some other emerging as their parties' candidates in the various elective positions. We ask, do we expect a change in the trajectory and voting patterns in elections in Nigeria? Does this mark the beginning for the participation and representation of more women in politics and governance? These and many other questions will form today's conversation. And we are joined by daughters of one of Nigeria's foremost politicians and winner of the June 12, 1993 elections, talking about Rinsola Abiola. She is also a member of the All Progressives Congress, the APC. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Also joining us for the discussion is Juliet Ikaire, who is a politician and also a member of the ADC. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now to complete the picture, we have Hajia Maria Ibrahim Baba, a politician, an activist and a public commentator. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Together, we'll be looking at the issues very closely. But before then, we will take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. And now the conversation begins. Our talking point is 2023 and women inclusion. Let me start with Rinsola. As a politician, an active politician, and of course an activist. Women, from the fulcrum, of the society, some would say, over the years, women have been playing a very key role in Nigeria's democracy in the area of participation, especially in election.
Yes, we have.
But then there has been issues around, giving women opportunity to serve. I know women have been yearning for this 35% affirmative action, and what have you. The current administration, some would say, has done well. I don't know how you would describe, you will rate the government in terms of allowing women participation in governance. What's your assessment of women participation so far?
Well, first off, I would say that the numbers seem to be reducing, especially in elective positions. And as you rightly noted when you began introducing the topic, we have 11 women in the House of Representatives right now. That's 50% less than the number that was there in the previous assembly, because we used to have 22. And the number of women in the Senate has remained constant at 7. And it kind of gives you an insight into how difficult it is for women to actually win elections. And the ironic thing is that as at 2019, during the last election cycle, we had the highest number of women ever on the ballot due to the high number of political parties operating at that time. But then look at the number of women who actually eventually scaled through. It's really poor and it's very shameful. And then we look at appointed positions. We're still not at that 35% mark, which is where we're supposed to have, at the very least, for equitable representation. But thankfully, Nigerian women have been able to secure a judgment at the Federal High Court, securing 35% affirmative action in appointed positions at the federal level for women. That judgment was issued just a couple of months ago. It was sometime this year, just a couple of months ago. And we also have states that have implemented either executive orders or have signed either executive orders or laws, also safeguarding a minimum of 35% affirmative action. And I make the distinction between signing something and implementing it because, well, it's one thing to have a law, it's another thing for that policy to actually be implemented to the letter. So in Ekiti, for instance, I know there's a 35% affirmative action clause embedded in the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill for women's representation in appointed positions. In Ogun State, my governor also recently introduced an executive order to that effect. Kwara also passed a law, which the governor signed into law sometime around December or November last year, during the 16 days of activism. It was in November or early December last year, also safeguarding 35% affirmative action in appointed positions. Now, there are a number of factors that militate against women's inclusion, especially through the ballot. In some areas, no matter how qualified a woman might be, they believe your place is in the kitchen, stay in the house. You shouldn't be dragging.
Talking about socio-cultural issues.
Socio-cultural issues. So in such areas, while we work on reorientation, it's also very key that leaders, say governors in those places, include women through appointments. And that's why, I keep saying that there's more than one pathway to power. Not everybody is going to run for office.
That's right.
Not everybody wants to run for office.
Okay.
But even in those positions that are not elective, it's important that we have laws that would ensure that women are properly included.
That's right. Okay, yeah, taking it from there, Hajia, she raised fundamental issues around, sociocultural and of course perception and of course retention of, some of those ideas and norms, so to speak, especially when it comes to the northern part of the country. Finding women, especially in, aspiring for public offices, is very rare. But we're beginning to see that changing. For instance, just recently, a woman emerged as a gubernatorial candidate in Adamawa State, for instance. This is in addition to the number of women that are also given a running mate position. In Kaduna, consistently now, so to speak, we're beginning to see a woman occupying that seat. She is with the current administration. She's nominated again to run, for the joint ticket for the APC in the state as well. And then the Adamawa, it's a Gombe also recently. The governor also nominated a female. Are we responding, looking at the cultural issues, the traditional and religious issues, are we gradually responding, to the yearnings of women to be involved in politics?
Well, it is too gradual. It is very, 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 it's at a snail speed, considering the Northwest zone in particular, because we seem to focus more our attention on Islamic point of view. So, and it is a pity that a lot of our people are not Islamically literate. A woman is expected to read only from Alam Tara Kaifa to Nasi. Is enough for her to perform her prayers, and that's it. No, that's all.
But
that's
who is
not
restricting the women? They also go through the Islamic schools and some graduate.
It goes from home to home. Okay. In every environment, there's a couple, a father and a mother. And the siblings coming up there are treated differently. They are given different opportunities. No matter how a girl is intelligent, they will tell her areas she shouldn't even go. If a girl carried tools and started, dissecting and putting to pieces something, they will say, this is for men, stop it. If they see a son carrying knife and cutting onions, and if you go to Saudi Arabia, all the hotels are run by men. All the chefs being paid large sums of money, and they're very comfortable. So if a son is blessed to be a chef, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I mean, why should you deprive him of exhibiting that and then having a good life? And if a girl has an engineering gift, she wants to be an aeronautic engineer, an architect or civil engineer or mechanical engineer, why do you stop her? So this is where we have the problem.
So
and it will
where
take
are we getting
time.
it wrong? Because is it about, awareness, or is it about the teachings now,
You
understanding
see,
the teachings?
No, I'm coming. You see, now teaching is a lot easier now, because with this modern technology, all this IT, you can browse and learn anything. I know young children that have learned Quran by memory through using their phones. But the point is, they're still under somebody. And who is the somebody? Who is in charge of a home? It's the man. And you know, men. Let's call
But it is
a
the
spade a
same
spade.
men that are giving women opportunity, picking them as running mates. Well,
But the percentage is so little that it's not worth mentioning. So you see, we still have a long way to go, but we have started. Because, I mean, I was picked as a running mate to Dr. Oji Uzwakalu on PPA platform.
so, yeah, classical
So you see,
example.
but how did it happen? It was by recommendation. I related with some people up there, and they saw my worth and thought I will fit in there, and introduced me to him when we don't even know each other. And that was how we started.
Well, we'll come back to talking about breaking barriers, because certainly sometimes it is not ideal to also sit back and say you are not giving opportunity.
Of course not.
It is,
You have to
that's
work
right.
hard towards it.
That's right.
Indeed,
Okay,
yes.
Juliet, she was talking about the reduction in terms of number of women currently in governance. Let's do an assessment, because it is not just about going there. What impact are women making in terms of development, in terms of our governance process? A number of them are in the National Assembly, but we haven't heard them talking about substantially issues that affect women in particular. Today, women are at the receiving end of whatever is happening. Yes, the hardship, the insecurity you can talk about. It is women that are, mostly at the receiving end. How would you assess the performance, if you like, or otherwise, or representation, in terms of what women are doing at those places?
I would say over time it hasn't been laudable enough, and that's the reason why we are not hearing about what they are doing in their various positions, in their various committees. And I know for sure that women's performance actually affects a lot of women who are actually not in the forefront. It does. And if they understand this, I know definitely they will put in so much effort in making sure their voices are heard for issues that relates to women. And it's so sad because I feel we need to do I think we need to reorganize our minds, our thoughts, because I feel women do not really see themselves as a whole. I think it's more of like they want something for themselves, just personal interest. Yes. So
rather than collective.
Yes,
they don't see themselves as representatives of women first.
Women, yes. And it's very bad. It's very, very bad, because women are at a position whereby they can actually influence women to even go further. Take a look at the primaries. I saw a lot of women doing so many things. They were actually delegates. But a lot of them were after some certain gains or so. They believe that when the women go there, they won't remember them. And so it's very, very difficult for women to even trust each other that they will definitely give their votes to a woman. Those are the issues. I remember when I ran elections in February this year. In fact, the number of women on the polls were women. They were so much. They were very much. But at the end of the day, we just had few. I think it's because of the lack of trust they have for each other. If we can open our minds to trust each other and hold every woman accountable, when she's coming to ask for your vote, what is she going to do? And then put her on, let her actually put her on that skill whereby she's able to tell you what she will do for you and how she'll be able to carry other women along. I'm not for a gender biased person, so irrespective of someone going for office, she shouldn't just focus on just the particular gender women. Carry each and every one along, be open, but women should also feel that you are also accessible and you can actually bring them a lot of benefits.
Right. What Juliet is saying is you are a problem to yourselves, for instance. And it's obvious, She talked about the recent party primaries, which is clear. A number of women have aspired, at different levels.
Different levels, yeah.
But yet you find out there was a woman that contested for the presidential ticket of the
Yes,
APC, if I
Uju,
remember. And unfortunately, I don't think she had a single vote.
She withdrew.
She withdrew.
Okay.
Yeah.
That also sent signals. Perhaps she must have seen the writing on the wall that she is.
Okay, so if I could comment on the question and her answer.
Right.
I think it's very important that we should be fair to the women currently in the National Assembly especially.
Okay.
There are 11 women out of a total of 360 legislators in the House of Representatives. That means they have 349 men to contend with. There are 7 women senators out of 109. That means they have 102 men to contend with. I worked with Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara as his essay in the previous assembly. And I remember when the constitution amendment bills came up and they were voting on the gender bills, when they voted against affirmative action for women, the very few women, just 22 of them, they stood up and they protested very strongly. And then the speaker had to call for another vote. But unfortunately, the second time around, they had an even lesser number than they did the first time. So it's for you to understand that it's not that these women don't want things to be better for Nigerian women.
No.
It's not that they're not fighting for these gender bills. Look at what happened recently, for goodness sake. The gender bills were shut down pretty much on the day that Women's Month started. It was in March. So like it gives you an insight into how much of an uphill task it is for women to actually get gender-sensitive bills to pass through. The Violence Against Persons Prohibitions Act was initially the Violence Against Women's Prohibitions Act. And they voted against it because they had women in the bill. So they had to make it violence against persons just to appease everybody else.
To accommodate
Exactly.
To accommodate
so for
everyone.
you to understand, and meanwhile, we all know that when it comes to domestic violence and the issues that law actually speaks against, it's women that are more on the receiving
They are
end.
on the receiving
But
end.
that's
Though there
due
is
to-
also violence against
No,
men.
we're not saying there is no violence against men, but usually it's when we're talking about violence against women that men tend to counter with, oh, but some women beat up their husbands too. You never
What is
actually
the
see them-
percentage?
and then you never actually see them starting up their own advocacy until women are talking. Exactly. So it's you also have to understand the kind of framework that these women legislators are working with.
But
It's
talking
not that easy.
about National Assembly,
Yes.
Monisola, you all know, you know the workings, It
Yes,
is
I
not
do.
something, when you're pushing for a particular issue, you also need to lobby.
Of course
You need
they
to
did.
reach out.
Of course they did.
You need to create a lot of
women's
awareness.
groups, women legislators, women officials, young women like myself across political parties, we have been lobbying for lots of years for all these gender bills. But the fact remains that even the last assembly, when the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill came up, they kept deferring the hearing, they kept deferring the hearing, they kept deferring the hearing. It is obvious that there is a conspiracy against women in this country.
Indeed.
What is this conspiracy about, Hajia? is it an imagination, or is it real?
It's not
Because,
an imagination, it's real.
there is a level
real.
playing ground.
No, there is
Not
Women
really,
can
not
also aspire
really,
for anything
not
they want to
really, not
aspire
really. You see, for instance, the little experience I have in practical politicking, when they want to hold meetings, they hold meetings at an ungodly hour. They put a meeting for, say, like 2 a.m. I mean, we play several roles. We take care of the home, the husband, and children. We can't neglect that.
We're talking about support. Why shouldn't the man support the woman?
But most men don't.
Escort her to the
No,
meeting.
most men don't. Let's face it, they don't. I don't know whether they see it as, I don't know, a challenge, or they feel the woman wants to override them, or what, I don't know. Which is very, very sad. Whatever a woman gets out there, she brings home. Not all men brings everything they get into the home. They share some out there. So a woman,
But you push the blame to the men.
they have a lot of the blame to carry. No, they have a lot
of.
of blame to carry, and also the women as well. You can't come out and vie for an office when you don't have the merit or what it takes. Just being a woman, you want to be a lady, and you want to be given 35 affirmative. That is not right.
That's for free.
No, that is not right. You must merit it. You must be capable. So I always talk to women when I go for advocacy. A young woman that is still in her productive period, she has children in primary school. I mean, how can she go and run for senatorial seat? She won't even have time to take care of her siblings, and that is not correct. What will you go and earn and become in Nigeria, neglecting the God-given gift that Allah has given you? It's a short period. You give them the best and out you go. So I encourage them to go for like local government chairman, councillors.
Start from the grassroots.
Start from the grassroots. And by the time you grow, your children are in secondary school, gradually they will all go to university. And you have the ample time, and you would have had the experience. Then you move on.
So planning matters here.
Planning is very, very important.
Right.
You must strategize. And then you shouldn't sit and fold your arms and wait When you want to run for an office, then you start reaching women, giving them soap. You must start from the grassroots. Be a philanthropist, be a good person, move around, go out and give a helping hand from house to house, then they will recognize you. So when the time comes that you need them to support you, they will automatically, even with the men. Because when you go to these homes, their husbands watch and see what you are doing. So by the time you are carrying everybody along, and you'll be able to get there.
Yeah. Okay, merit, you need to earn, whatever position you're looking for. You need to be seen to have the capacity to deliver.
Very true.
Again, collectively, is it that you're also lacking a blueprint, tabling having a common front, on issues? Women, perhaps some would say, also need to come together. Are there platforms in the first place for women to come together and articulate their positions on issues? Look at their problems and then articulate positions and resolutions and then push them.
Yeah, yes, they are. But how much are they doing to actually? And because I look at the formative stage of making women even very, very visible, it's even once they are actually before the primaries. Yes, that is even the point whereby you start getting to find those women that you feel as organizations, those women that you feel they are competent, show them support and all that, and also when they become candidates. Because you see these organizations, most time they just look for people that, yes, it's good to show interest in those that you want them to participate in this process. But at the end of the day, once they become candidates, how much do women reach out to those candidates to give them ideas on how to push their policies, how to present themselves? I get to see some groups, and truthfully speaking, they don't do much, irrespective of how much we're trying to downplay it. I feel
the organizations,
those
such
organizations,
as women's societies,
yes.
You have the ministry, a whole ministry.
Exactly.
Headed
Call
by
those
a woman.
women. Yes. Let them come out, show you those visions they have. Help them to put it together. Help to champion. You may do it on the ground or however you want to do it, but support these causes. And then we are raising a generation of women. For me, I feel even a leadership institute for women that will be very, very vocal, their point to be clear, and it can be championed by even women who are even on seats.
Right. Okay. Ursula, the fact that you're part of the system, you also know the workings and how women galvanize some of these thoughts together, come up with, are you lacking, a common front? Why are you not pushing the issues collectively? And then are these issues even articulated in the first place? Okay. What are the real issues?
So first things first, when I was speaking earlier, I mentioned the fact that we recently secured a judgment, securing affirmative action, 35% for women in appointed positions at the federal level. That was done because women groups came together and went to court. They took the federal government to court. And because it's simple, right? You look at the federal character clause that says, representation in terms of this, in terms of that. People are asking, why is gender not part of it? And then Nigeria is a signatory to the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. So why have we not adopted it? So they went to court, and we were able to get that judgment that says that women have to be given not less than 35% in appointed positions. And I really hope that the next administration will actually abide by this when appointments are being made. Now, if there was no unity in our ranks, we would not have gone to court to get that judgment. We have organizations like the Women in Politics Forum that is an umbrella body for women across political parties. It's kind of like how we have IPAC. But then we have the Women in Politics Forum where you have different women from APC, PDP,
across party
lines. And it is just to articulate that common agenda, like you said. Within our political parties, the APC, for instance, during the last convention period and primaries, when forms were being bought, I vied for position of a national youth leader in the party, the first woman to do so since the party has been established. And I got my form at half of what my non-party
in line with the policy.
Exactly. So, and then again, when primaries came around for elective positions, women only pay the cost of the expression of interest forms. So for instance, if you were running for House of Reps, instead of paying the full 10 million, women only paid about 1 million. Yeah. For State Assembly, women only paid 500,000.
Which is very,
2 million.
so fair.
Like, those are part of the concessions that we've been able to get as a result of pushing collectively for inclusion. Because we all know that no matter how much we say there is a challenge with inclusion, we know that funding is a key challenge for a lot of women in politics. We don't have the kind of financial muscle that our men do. So the political parties actually granting concessions to women when it comes to the cost of forms is a great step. it helps to ensure that more women are able to come forward. But then what we actually do need, and I know I'm veering into another question now, is that we need policies that will actually ensure that women emerge. So despite having, I think right now in
policies
the APC...
like what? You have the affirmative action secured?
Affirmative action
so what else?
in the courts for the administration to appoint not less than 35% of women. That judgment does not apply to political parties.
Certainly,
the PDP, for instance, will tell you, and then the PDP, for instance, will tell you that they have affirmative action for women in their constitution. But look at the list of candidates from the PDP and look at the number of women amongst them. After the primaries, I heard that in APC we have 68 women candidates, on the ballot. That's an improvement from what we had before. But still, look at 68. As opposed to the total number of elective positions in this country. I think over 900, over 1,000
yeah.
At the state assembly level, there are about 996 or thereabout. Look at the National Assembly, the House of Reps, the Senate, over 1,000 seats, just 68 women were able to emerge. So like a lot of people vied, and I'm sure that we had at least times 10 of that number who came forward to vie. So until, it's good that we've been granted concessions on the cost of forms, but we also need policies that would ensure that women occupy a certain percentage of the total number of candidates that we have at the end of the day.
But who are pushing for it? Because if you don't emerge,
we are pushing.
I mean, what I'm saying is that it's a political party primary, for instance. You secure you are able to buy the forms and what have you, aspiring. And then it is expected that you have to get elected, at the primary level for you to compete. And yet you didn't emerge. So what concession are you talking about?
Okay, so wait, right. When politicians want to make things happen, they know how to do it.
They know how to do it.
So when our leaders want to constitute leadership of political parties,
democratic process.
Please. When our leaders want to constitute, when they want to constitute the leadership of our respective political parties, they know how to sit down at the drawing table and say, this position will go to this zone, and this is who I will nominate. Because at the end of the day, you find a lot of people stepping down at primaries, to accommodate different interests. The same can be done at state level if you are really serious about it. We have a lot of constituencies where perhaps one local government has one constituency 1, constituency 2 in the state assembly. I don't see any reason why we can't, if constituency 1 goes to a man,
then
constituency 2 should go
to a woman.
If we want to do these things, if the political will is there, we can get it done. Our leaders know how to constitute these things. They know how to add, how to subtract, how to multiply, how to divide. If they want to do it to favor women,
deny people opportunity?
I didn't say that. But if they want to do it to favor women, they will.
Okay.
Yes.
We hope they
yes, if you look at all the political parties, look at the National Working Committee. To have a chairman, fine, man. Let's have a man. But when he's taking a deputy, why not a woman?
Exactly.
We have women who are capable.
More than capable.
I'm telling you.
And within the political party.
If you pick a secretary, a man, put a woman secretary. Women are very good secretaries. They are natural administrators.
But here you are, Aja, talking about merit, talking about capacity and all of that.
You see, I like the point she made, and that was what I was saying before primaries, and that's what these organizations should do, irrespective of parties. We shouldn't play party politics right now because a lot of women are candidates, and this is the opportunity to beam the light on these candidates. And that was where I was trying to go to. That irrespective of the party, yes, we know that we've moved from, and we can't go back to May, whereby they conducted primary. We can't go back. So let's move ahead. Now these organizations should put themselves together, beam the lights on the candidates, see the competence in this candidate from across various parties. If they are women, show your support.
Yes. Okay.
This is what we need right now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because you have the numbers. Just recently, looking at the statistics, you surpass, the voting population of men.
Exactly.
Male,
we always do.
Yeah. So it's always like, even though this time around, I think it is a little bit on decline. Looking at some of the reasons, especially in this part of the country. We'll talk about
if you remember
and why
in the past,
it is reducing.
It is.
But we have to take a break.
Okay, no problem.
In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics, and today we're looking at 2023 and women inclusion. And I've been interfacing with Hajia Maria Ibrahim Baba, a public commentator, Rinsola Abiola, politician and activist, a member of the APC, and Juliet Ikaire, who is a politician, a member of the ADC. ADC, that's Action Democratic Congress, that's right. Okay, African Democratic Congress. We take a break, and when we return, we'll continue with the discussion. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics. And today we're looking at 2023 and women inclusion with Maria Ibrahim Baba, a public commentator, Rinsola Abiola, a politician, an activist and a member of the APC, and Julia De Kaire, a politician, a member of the ADC, and a lawyer. Just before the break, Rinsola was actually talking about efforts that have been made, to push for the affirmative action and, of course, enhance the participation of women in politics. I was talking about the numbers, in terms of the voting population, the franchise now, which also gives you the opportunity to decide, who gets what in a democratic setting. But some would say women are not perhaps taking advantage of this voting strength to also demand for certain decisions. Like Rinsola is saying that there is need for concessions. Why concessions when you have an opportunity at a point to put whoever is aspiring for a particular position, to get him to even sign an accord, if you like, or an agreement that, okay, this is what we want. We have this voting strength. If you want our votes, this is what we want. And somebody has to go into it. I don't know why you're not taking advantage of this democratic process. Ajia.
Well, to some extent, we have tried and have started, playing on that path. But it is easier said than done. And when it comes to participation in real election for candidates, you know what it goes with. You need to spend money. It doesn't go just like
I'm talking about general election now. Candidates will start going, to seek your votes. They'll start campaigning, coming to women to say, we need your votes at different levels. There are groups, there are associations.
What we have adopted now is that regardless of whatever political party a woman belongs to, the moment she's made a candidate, other women from other political parties should support her.
So how would you realize that, looking at the current trajectory where women?
Well, this is not something we bring out in the public. We shouldn't bring it out in the public. When you want to catch a bird, you don't lift your stick up. We do it on the ground. So we are supporting ourselves on the ground. I don't have to tell you the details of how we do it, but it's ongoing. It's gradual. Rome is not built in a day. In the past, women are not even recognized to even own voters' card. At least we've got to a certain point now, but we'll keep on moving. It's not easy, and it's not going to be a smooth path, but we are pushing.
Okay, pushing. Rinsola, I was talking about, getting people, holding people accountable, for instance, now that they are coming to seek for the votes, and you have this bargaining power, so to speak. Yeah. So how do you intend to utilize this to ensure that you push for those issues and see them emerge?
So what I'm going to say is this, we all have a gender in common, but women are hardly homogeneous. It's like expecting all the men in the country to vote in one direction. We know it's not possible. And people have different interests. People have different loyalties. We have women who are very strongly with the APC. We have women who are very strongly with PDP. We have women who are very strongly with other political parties. Maybe NNPP, could be Labour Party, could be ADC, could be ADP. We have different women across different groups like that who believe that their interests would be better served with that political party. So nobody can actually
common
say
interest,
that.
For instance, isn't it? A common interest.
We're
if you're talking about poverty, for instance, it's common. Does it segregate along religious or political lines?
So, as I was saying,
insecurity, does it? You are receiving anything.
We are in a democracy.
Okay.
We have different candidates who are vying for office. Everybody will make their own list of promises regarding all these issues, and different things will resonate with different people. So how you expect the market woman in maybe Eket
who doesn't belong to
process something is different from how you would expect the housewife in maybe Abekuta to process it. And their priorities, their concerns will be different. It will be different candidates who will appeal to different groups of women. So nobody can actually, if anybody stands up and says, oh, I will single-handedly deliver the general women's votes, it's fraud. It's fraud. FCC. But what we can do within our respective political parties, and what we are doing, is ensuring that we are coming together. Like just yesterday, we had a strategic meeting with the women leader of the national women leader of the APC, where we discussed issues going into the elections, the role that women have to play, the fact that we need to be more proactive, be at the forefront, the fact that we need to do things differently and have our own thing going on. We're doing that within our respective parties, and I'm pretty sure women in PDP are doing the same. I don't know how it is in other parties, but I know like with the major political parties, women tend to organize very strongly around election period. So we are also interfacing with our candidates, both at different levels, presidential, state, legislative, for them to understand that, look, we have women, a very strong, vibrant women's wing in the party, and these are the things that we expect in return for our support. Of course, we are duty bound to support our candidates at every level, but at the same time, it's very key, as you mentioned, that we itemize our demands. Now, another thing with politicians generally, because I've had quite a bit of experience, I've worked with quite a few of them, is if I'm running for president and you bring your demands and say, oh, those of us who are journalists, this is what we want from you, I'll tell you, okay, because I need you to vote for me.
Indeed.
And then, of course, again, I also don't know the reality.
Documenting it.
Again,
documenting it and getting them to sign.
The thing is this, again, when someone is running for office, I could say I want to run for governor of my state now, make a couple of promises based on what has come before, and then I get into office and the reality is different. There will always be lots of interest that will be competing. So if somebody agrees to 40% for women right now, by the time he wins, the lobbying that he will be bombarded with will actually make it exactly. It might cause the commitments that he has made, not just to women, could also be to young people, could be to people with disabilities, could be to doctors. So
he won't be able to meet it.
There will be a lot of reconsideration that happens after victory has been secured.
We've seen people making promises like 50 and then reducing it to 3.
You guys have to understand.
That's bad.
Yes. And it's not necessarily because they don't want to do it, but the realities of office are very different from when you're campaigning. So it's not as if women have not been engaging. Women have been engaging right from time with all the key candidates at every level. But sometimes when they do get in, the reality is completely different. And they're no longer able to abide by those commitments.
Oh, okay. Let's look at confidence building, Other gender, I mean, the male gender, and of course, generality of Nigerians are also looking up to women, and the role they are playing, either in politics, in governance, and so on. Over the years, some will say the number of women that have been given opportunities, well, I don't want to say like substantial number of them perhaps did not do well. We find women who are given political offices and in the end they became, I mean, it's unpalatable. You find people, at the top list of corrupt, public officials and what have you, and these are women. So sometimes you begin to wonder if a woman should be trusted. How are you working towards, confidence building? Because you really need to get Nigerians to, in the first, possibly believe in what a woman can do.
I would like to also appreciate women who have actually paid their dues or enabled more women to even participate, because they even deserve a high commendation. People that have passed on, you talk of Fumilayo, Rasokoti, you talk of Dora. I give all those women a whole lot of respect. Yes, I remember how they champion causes for protest. They come together irrespective of parties. And I wish that we can still have a generation of women across parties come together to push for such cause. And I also want to ways they can actually do is about raising their voices, because we see a lot of women being put in a tight corner and they are not able to defend themselves. We see a lot of men being put in a web and they've said they've done such a lot of things, but they speak up. But we need to aid these women's voices, because
how would you change the narrative? Because the perception is that when you're given opportunity, you do worse than the men.
That's I feel it's more of like a propaganda driven against this women. Yes. So, and what I was actually saying right from time is that organizations should aid these women to be able to give them a voice, because they need the support of another woman to actually give them a platform to talk. What are those things that are going on there that has limited them over time? And these are the things they need to show to the public, that the expectations they have of those women are too much, but this is exactly their functions, and these are the limitations they are faced with while in office. And I think we still have a role to play in enabling these women, enabling the world to see a better picture of these women, and also foster the participation of women across this governance process.
Still talking about changing the narratives, Hajia, how do we change the mentality of women, especially at the grassroots level? For instance, where you have the numbers, and a number of women don't even see politics as anything to go in, they see it as, that there is limitation as to what they can do in politics. How much more of awareness,
we
can
need
be pushed forward?
advocacy.
Right.
and we need mentoring. We need to mentor. It's very, very important. Any woman that gets up there in any office, be it elective office or political appointment, she shouldn't just see it for herself alone. She should sit up and try to mentor the younger ones or the people out there, so that women will. If you don't do mentoring, then we are in trouble. We need to really look seriously into mentoring. We don't do that at all. The percentage of those doing mentoring is negligible. So we need to really impact on that, and that's very important.
Okay. Looking at, Juliet was actually talking about the women who have, stood for their fellow women, and who have met their mark in Nigeria's polity, in the struggle for even independence and so on and so forth. But today, it's about individual interests and what have you, just like we said. How much are we building or trying to keep the spirit of such, struggle where women would be at the forefront, to champion the cause of women?
I'm going to tackle you on two things. The corruption question, yes, of course. The corruption question you asked earlier, if we look at the number of people who have been convicted or investigated for corruption, the men far outnumber the women. And nobody has ever said, because men have been convicted, because we've had governors leave office and enter the EFCC net, because we've had legislators who are men dragged before the EFCC, let's stop voting for men. Nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says, because we elected a governor that was a man and he did not perform, let's stop voting for men. So if these arguments are not extended to men who either were not accountable with public funds or who did not serve properly when they were elected, why do we extend it to women? We need to not judge women by different standards from, the same standards that we apply to men who are in public office or who are seeking elective office. Now, on your question, it's very important that women have a common agenda. And as I said earlier, there are quite a number of women that are really pushing for this. We have the likes of Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, who's from my hometown. I adore her. I wish I'd actually met her while she was still alive. A great woman by every standard. The Margaret Epos, the Gambo Sahaba, someone else that I'm absolutely crazy about. I love her so much. May Allah rest her soul. And we still have quite a number of women like that who are really at the forefront. Maybe because the situation now is different from the situation then. Then they were still fighting, like Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti really fought against the colonialists. We had other women who were very active during the democracy struggle. Now we have our democracy. And it's just, different women speaking up in different areas. We have women in the civil society space talking against domestic violence, for instance. We have women within the legislature pushing for bills and all. So we actually do still have all of these women.
The legal profession.
In the legal profession, fighting against discriminatory practices. So we actually do have these women who are still pushing for women's agenda. But because, times have changed. We had the Beijing conference in '95, for instance. It was after that Nigeria established the Ministry for Women Affairs. And funny enough, the current Minister for Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Tallen, is about the most active Women Affairs Minister that we've had in recent times. They're doing so much work. She's been very particular. Yes, I actually do say that it seems they have a challenge with projecting the work that they're doing, but I'm also very active in civil society circles, so I know for a fact that she's been very, very active. In Kogi State, for instance, now, in every local government, each vice chairman is female in all of the local governments in Kogi. And other states, I know she did a lot of advocacy regarding that. Get women to be more involved. If we're looking at the National Assembly, it seems like a really big thing. And if we're looking at appointments like commission and all of that, it seems like a really big thing. But right from local governance, right from the local government, from the ward level, get women to be more involved. And it's when people see that example. When a young girl that has been told at home, politics is not for you, and then she knows her local government chairman, she knows her local government vice chairman, one of them is a woman, she knows her councillor, it's a woman. It's easier for somebody to aspire to something
it encourages
when they
her.
see themselves being represented. If a girl is watching TV or she's listening to the radio and she hears the voice of another young woman talking about politics, she knows that it is something she can do.
Yeah, she'll be
because
interested.
she's looking at another young woman who is there, who has done it. We have young women who, there's this lady, Amina, I've forgotten her last name now. She was SUG president in a university in Sokoto. So that's for you to understand that these things are not impossible. And if we actually should do more to promote the stories of women like this who are inspirational and who will encourage other young women to come up. Because look at it like this here. In the National Assembly now, we're talking about the low level of representation. If the interest is there from girls right from a young age, this is a gap that we will close organically, even without really needing laws to do it. But we need laws at the this moment because it's like it's stopgap measure to actually, take care of the issue of underrepresentation right away. There is no shortage of qualified women in this country. There is no shortage of bright women in this country,
including other aspects where
yes,
we are what?
share the resources. Well, I'm not saying that. Well, you're good at everything. Okay, let me get Juliet. Juliet, she's talking about the fact that we have the legal framework, we have the laws, backing all of this. She talked about the affirmative action that has been, secured through the court pronouncements and what have you. As a legal practitioner, the challenge, now would be on implementation. How do you intend to hold leaders accountable to some of these legislations so that the end result is achieved?
A law when a law being made will only be just in theory except being put to test. So it's actually telling people to actually go challenge this law, because if you don't challenge it, the court won't do anything about it. That's just
which people? You're legal practitioners.
Yes.
Perhaps you should be able to
champion those causes. Yes, but you need to, especially if you're a party, if you have an interest to actually protect. So if it's you're having a lot of persons, interested persons coming together, because you cannot just on your own just go and push for the implementation of the policies, whereas people out there are not showing cause for the implementation, or there is no interest that you want to actually put in cause for the court to be able to adjudicate upon. If there is nothing like that, it's just going to, like it's already a law. Yes, implementation. So people need to come together, especially aggrieved persons.
Okay, Adja, looking at our polity today, which is, grossly monetized, if you like, it puts women on the edge, because you have to have the resources to be able to compete or to contest, aspire for elective positions. We talk about the concessions that were made, but we know even those who have currently emerged, who wants to run, need resources to be able to, to actualize their dreams. How do you think women can be empowered to be able to, or how do you think we can reduce this monetization of the polity so that we can give, an open opportunity and a level playing ground so that women can also aspire and get their dreams, realized?
Well, if you look at Nigeria of today and compare it with our own days, parents introduce and expose their children to money. When we were growing, money doesn't mean anything to us. What matters is to get your food on the table. You need soap, it's given to you, and that's
the basics, right?
The basics, but today it's not the same. Parents spoil their children with money, giving a child in primary school having an iPhone. Huh? Well, a child going, I'm coming.
We're in the 21st century.
Children respond to stimuli. It's not about age. Training and upbringing is very, very important, and it's paramount. It's foundation. You must give a good upbringing to your child, so that when he grows up and go back into the society, he will be able to perform well. But if you now spoil a child by making him feel this world is a bed full of roses, and then by the time he gets out there after primary, secondary, university, he comes out, he's zero. He still depends on you. So look, this affects both women and men. That's right. So we have to correct that from our home settings before we go to the public.
Emphasis should not
then
be
secondly, our women need to be empowered. Before I went into politics, I had to make my own money. You don't go into politics to make money. You go into politics to serve.
That's right.
So if you don't have money, how can you operate? You go to the office there, you are expecting the chairman or somebody to bring you some extra code and give this wrong. Then you'll be disrespected. So the most important thing for our women is for us to empower them. Let them be entrepreneurs. Let them set up something and make some income. Okay. Then from there, they take it up from there.
Okay, Risana, let me give you the last line. Now, how do you navigate around these issues of monetization of the polity?
Okay, so money is very key in politics, and politics is expensive all over the world. It's not just in Nigeria. Although I think our culture has really, made ours a bit more expensive than usual. So what I would say is that if we really want to see women emerge as office holders, we need to be willing to support them. And if you're not a woman who is capable, like you keep talking about, who will not steal when she's elected, like you keep talking about, you have a woman who is genuine and who can get the job done, who has a track record of competence and service to the people, then we should be willing to put our money where our mouth is.
Yes.
In advanced democracies, nobody expects you to fund your campaign with your personal money.
You can do crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding. People donate to politicians that they like, that they
Indeed.
support. Like when American politicians, after elections, they give accounts of how much was raised, what went to what. Media takes a chunk of the money. We should learn to actually
Even though
support.
Nigerians have, some would say, some sort of experience that might not encourage them to do more. Well,
We should be willing to support.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much.
And I will throw this question to Isela, please. Hope you will support me as a candidate who is running for Legislative House, off camera.
Party.
These are the issues.
But we'll talk later.
I know. I know you want to dominate, and then load it on me. The fact that the ratio of 1 to 4 anyway. But I think substantially you've made your case. Thank you very much for talking to us on Daily Politics. Insola Abiola, of course, Maria Ibrahim Baba, and of course Juliet Ikairi. You truly represented women the way it should be. So we really appreciate your perspectives. On this note, we come to the end of Daily Politics. On behalf of the technical crew, my name is Shafiu Suleiman. Thank you for staying with us.